Welcome to the Mind for Success podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Lebbing, and I love seeing business professionals, leaders, and entrepreneurs have massive success in their businesses. Are you ready to reach a higher level in your business? Are you looking to rise to the top and break through the barriers that are holding you back? If this is you, join us on the Mind for Success podcast. Hello and welcome to the Mind for Success podcast. I'm Kimberly Lebbing, and this morning it's morning here, I have a special guest, Alvin Narsey. And Alvin has an exciting journey buying and selling multiple pharmacy businesses in Australia over the past 16 years. He is known for his ability to simplify the fundamentals in growing retail businesses. Alvin has a framework that boils down to implementing the basics, focusing on cash flow and profit from day one, setting everything up so your retail business runs without you. Pretty amazing. He's trained as a pharmacist in Melbourne, Australia. He bought his first business as a partnership a few years after he graduated from university. As a pharmacist, you're trained as a clinician, not how to run a business, something I think we all struggle with a little bit with different industries. And with the help of coaches and mentors and a feverish appetite for freedom and adventure, Alvin quickly learned how to utilize systems and leverage to ensure that these businesses were fulfilling his lifestyle goals. And now that he's sold all of his businesses, and he's now embarking on his next adventure of traveling the world and helping other retail business owners create the lifestyle that they want. Alvin's uniqueness is sharing the skills that retail business owners need to increase their income, profit, value, and to their clients and their customers, and live a life of massive personal freedom. So thank you, Alvin, for being on the show today. I'm excited to have you here.
Me too, Kim. Thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome. Well, I was excited when we first met because honestly, I've never met anyone who does specifically what you do that's specific for retail businesses. So I definitely wanted to have you on because people need this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I chose to niche down, as they call in our industry. I think because what I talk about and what I coach businesses on is really applicable to every single type of business. This is fundamentals. It's not rocket science. It's not anything new. But I chose to niche down into the retail landscape because, that's been my language for the past 16 years. I can speak the retail language really well. I can relate to that market really, really well. So that was my decision for really focusing on retailers. But what we're going to talk about today is really applicable to every single business, right? I mean, it's just the fundamentals about running a business that nobody ever talks to you about.
I love it. I love it. So important. So I know our first topic on our agenda is, I know you're going to share some things about cash flow and profitability. So I'm just going to let you go right into what you have to share.
Absolutely. So I think one of the most common mistakes that business owners make when it comes to running their business is they really focus on marketing from the beginning. And don't get me wrong, I think marketing is really, really important. However, what I often see, and the same thing happened to me, was that we sort of forget about the fundamentals in our business. And these are the fundamentals like understanding the flow of cash through our business, really concentrating on profitability to ensure that we are actually making money. And once we have these foundations set right, then we can actually start to do our marketing. And we can do it in a way that we can actually track and measure. And I'm sure we're going to talk about that as well. But, we can really give our business every chance of success because we've set up the foundations. So that's why I like to talk about these things. And so cash flow, really important because one of the main reasons that businesses in general, not necessarily retail, but businesses fail is they simply run out of cash. And, it's almost like there is a black hole in our business when this happens. And you're just wondering, where did all the cash go? Because without cash, you're unable to pay your suppliers in the retailer's case, or unable to pay your bills. And most importantly, it's going to make it really difficult to pay the most important person in the world, which is yourself, right?
Right.
So that's why we're in this business game. So that's why I focus on cash flow and profitability, because just by setting these things up and doing it in a very simple way, we can actually empower ourselves and set our business up for success.
Absolutely. I love this. And you touched on this, so I'd love for you to expand on it a little bit more. And I'll just be candid, like in my early days, I hated looking at my numbers. Hated looking at my numbers. I wasn't a good, strong math person. It's not something I like to do. So could you expand about just the importance of tracking and knowing your numbers?
Absolutely. So I used to hate numbers as well. And I come across very few business owners that actually enjoy the numbers. And I often wondered about that in the beginning. And I think it's because the numbers, if we have a bookkeeper or an accountant, they usually give us, quarterly or monthly in some case. They give us our results, or, and they usually hand it in a little folder with numbers everywhere, and it can get totally overwhelming and totally confusing. So I think it's really important that we start to simplify it and simplify the whole process, and we can start to track and measure the numbers in our business. So that's one of the really most important things. And, I'm not talking about the complicated things. I'm just talking about the real basics. So we really need to be tracking and measuring our cash flow. We need to be tracking and measuring our profitability and our expenses as well. And I think the major mistake that business owners make with cash flow is that we think it's really, really difficult, probably based on these reports that we see from our accountant or bookkeeper giving us. But really, all we're trying to do is get a snapshot. And in retail world, I recommend we track it weekly, just depending on your business as well, if you're not in retail. But because there's so much variability in the retail landscape, usually, it's good to track it weekly. But all we're doing is just getting an understanding of how much cash came into the business, what we paid out. And just by doing that simple process, it's amazing how you can have this X-ray vision into your business, because you can just start to see, somebody said this saying a long time ago, what gets measured gets managed, right? Just by the fact of starting to track things just automatically start to improve. And I think there's some, subliminal actions happening there. You're starting to understand what's happening in your business, and things start correcting themselves.
Oh, absolutely. And that's something, so that goes along with what I tell people: you can't fix a problem that you're not aware of. So if you continue to just sweep it under the rug and not pay attention to it, at some point, it's going to not be a good problem to have.
No, it's going to blow up in your face. And you're going to find out at the very last minute when you think you've been doing well in your business, your turnover or your revenue is up. And then you sort of look into your bank account and you're wondering, where did all the money go? And that's usually when you ring the alarm bells.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked about simplifying the process. So tell us, or speak a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure thing. So I think
tell us how to do that.
Yeah. So let's stay on the cash flow part of things, and I can run into some of the other things as well. But I think what's really important is to track our cash flow in a simple way. And certainly we have a lot of software available. A lot of people use QuickBooks, MyOb, Xero is another one, and they're really great software. But I think there's a power that we empower ourselves with when we use something very simple like Excel or Google Sheets, and we're just concentrating on 3 bits of information: the cash that's coming into our business, the cash that's going out, and ensuring that the figure at the end of the week or in the month or however you're tracking marries up with the figure in your bank account. And that's all I want business owners to see for that week, for that tracking of the cash flow component. And so it's really, really simple. There's nothing to distract us with whatever's going on. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's really, really important. The other thing I like to keep really, really simple is we all need some sort of metrics to understand how we are tracking within our business, and especially in retail world, that's super important. I would argue in every business, we all need some key performance indicators that we need to have for our business to see how we are going, how we are tracking. And ultimately, it's these KPIs and the management of these KPIs that will allow us to step back from the day-to-day running of our business, because then effectively what we can do is we can measure our team's performance on how well they improve and achieve those KPIs. And they're going to be, those KPIs are the metrics or the levers that we pull as a business owner to drive our business forward. But with KPIs, this is also another thing that can get overcomplicated, right? You can get KPI dashboards, which are very fancy, and you can put them up on your big screen TV, and it can just get very, very complicated. I really recommend, and this is what I get all my clients to do, is we just have an A4 piece of paper with no more than 6 KPIs, 6 to 10 KPIs, I think is the sweet spot in retail space anyway. And we manually update it using our hands and just manually put that in. And just by having something that you can look at simply, in retail, I recommend we keep it in the staff room, because most retailers have a staff room in the back where the team can see it. But you just need to have it visible in a very simple format, because the whole idea is you are going to look at this KPI dashboard, our sophisticated dashboard, and that's going to allow you to make decisions. And you want to be able to make decisions clearly and quickly without getting distracted by all the numbers and all the levers that you can get. So, there are just 2 examples of how we go about simplifying our business.
Yeah, that's great, because I think that sometimes we get caught up in I'm sure other people do this besides me, but you get caught up in the weeds
Yes.
of how complicated it is. And then you don't want to do it. And that's where you end up sweeping it under the rug.
Exactly right. And it's so easy, especially now in the current landscape of business that we're doing now, because there are so many distractions. There are so many products, so many add-ons, so many gurus, so many things we can get distracted with, which just pulls us, usually from either strategy to strategy, or pulling us away from our core things that we should be doing, which is, looking after our clients and growing our profitability. So it's very easy to get lost in the weeds, exactly as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is just a question that came to mind. When's the best time to implement these processes for somebody? Is it right from the beginning, or when is it best, and can you implement it later if you haven't been?
Absolutely. I always recommend, if you're starting a business, to do it from the beginning, because like I mentioned, this is the fundamentals. And if we set this up correctly, it's only just going to lead to greater success in our business and greater understanding of the numbers and the fundamentals in our business. But that's not what happens in real life, right? That's when people come to me, is when they're in a little bit of trouble. And then so we not necessarily reverse engineer, but there's no issue in setting it up when, like right now. If you're hearing this now and you've been thinking about setting up some sort of KPI dashboard, now is the time to do it. Because it's going to take you some time to figure out, one, the right KPIs for your business, which is why you should be working with a coach or a consultant to help you determine those. But, once you figure out the right KPIs, how you go about tracking them, how you go about representing them on your little A4 sheet of paper, there's a little bit of trial and error involved if you're doing it on your own. So, there is no time like the present to start.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a feeling you would say that. But it's never too late, right?
That's right. It's never too late.
Yeah. So we touched a little bit when we talked before about business values. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yes. So one of the hidden things that business owners, when they come to me, and they're always in a cash flow and profit crisis, just because the way I market myself. But one of the things that they don't realize is, one of the first questions I asked is, do you have a vision for your life? Or when I go about trying to extract a vision for your life, do you know what your values are? And, so every time I get this, like, why are you asking me this question? Can you just please, let's fix my cash flow? And so I think this is a really important piece, because when we start to do the work in improving cash flow, profitability, implementing systems, starting to work on the business, that requires a fair bit of work from you, the business owner. And it's going to get really difficult. It's going to get really challenging. And you're going to need to find something that's going to propel you forward rather than you sort of folding the table and saying, oh, this is too much, it's too hard. So one of the first steps that I like to do, and a lot of coaches do this, so it's a great process, is basically to get an understanding of, like, what are you all about? What makes you happy? What values do you have? You know, and for a lot of business owners, this is the first conversation they're having about this kind of thing. It's basically just understanding, you know, what do I want this business to provide for me? Because that's going to be the driving factor when we start to get into these situations where, you know, where your coach or myself is telling you we need to create some systems here, and it's going to be a little bit challenging for you to really think about these things. But if you have this greater vision for yourself, if you've worked through this process of understanding what really makes me happy, this business can provide for me what really makes me happy. And, you know, that might be, I can go play golf 2 or 3 times a week. I can travel, you know, quite extensively, whatever that might be for you, whatever makes you happy. I think that's really, really important in understanding what you value as an individual. And of course, we need to do a very similar thing, which for our business, which is common in the business marketplace. Everybody knows we need to have a mission, vision, values for our business. Whether we do that or not, you know, that's another question, that's another thing. But very few business owners understand they need to do this for themselves as well.
Yeah, I just thinking about what you were saying as you were talking, and I'm sure you've seen this. Do you see people, so this is something I see, that people get into a business, and something I did myself. We get into a business because we want to create more freedom and have more time freedom and all flexibility and all those things. But then we start our business and we literally kind of subconsciously, I think, create another job. Our business ends up being, and some of the things you touched on, without that vision that you set, you'll do what I just said. You'll end up creating another job and kind of feel like a prisoner of it.
Absolutely. And, you know, we're going to end up doing all the things in our business because I guess, you know, many of us are new business owners and we think we're the only people with the expertise, so to speak. We're the technician. And in my case, I was the pharmacist clinician, and you know, there was nobody else qualified to do that. But quite often this happens with business owners. You know, they really get into their business and they try and do everything. And then they lose sight of the bigger picture. You know, perhaps you went into your business to make money and provide for your family, and that's really also awesome as well. But I think you need to have a greater sense of purpose, you know, and you need to, you know, it's good if you have that realization that this business has the opportunity to provide you with something more, that, you know, the value that you can create to your marketplace and also to actually help you live a fulfilling life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. When you said that, I'm like, oh, I wanted to hit on that a little bit more, because I know that people may not even realize they're doing it.
Yeah.
When they get in this grind, and then they end up getting burned out and frustrated and not really knowing what to do.
Yeah. And that has a compounding effect because you're starting to feel like you're losing this race, and it really further perpetuates the fact that I'm the only person that can get me out of this mess. And you just keep going round and round, and you're staying within that hamster wheel of your business, so to speak. And, you know, you don't really need to hit rock bottom before you get some help. You know what I mean? So if you are realizing that you're in this race and it resonates with you, just get some help. You know, seek out a mentor or a coach or just someone who's run businesses before to have a chat to.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That was something I noticed even through 2020 and the pandemic. The businesses that were stressed and doing that, you know, in that mode, some of them didn't make it.
Yeah.
So having that foundation that you provide is really key, so that when hard times come, you're able to keep things going and and not have the market be affecting you as much.
Absolutely. And this is the reality of, you know, navigating the business landscape, is you're always going to be challenged in one way or another, whether it's a virus or a change in market conditions. I think we've always got to be aware of that it's going to come in some way, shape or form. and we best be ready for it all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I know now this is probably going a little bit into that, but you had shared about cash flow being a problem even for yourself in the past.
Totally.
Can you expand a little bit on that, and maybe what people can do to avoid that trap?
Yeah, absolutely. So, very early on in my business, I was growing my business. This is before I had a coach. And, turnover was increasing. This is great, right? We're making all this money, I thought. And then when it came to looking, when I looked in the bank account, there was really no money left. And I was like, what is going on here? This doesn't make sense to me. So quite often what happens is cash is one thing that we need in our business. It's sort of the oxygen, because as I mentioned, you need it to pay your staff, to pay your team, pay yourself, pay your suppliers. And so some of the quickest ways to get out of this cash flow situation and making sure that you're constantly replenishing and increasing your cash flow, we've obviously spoken about ad nauseum, tracking your cash flow. The other part is forecasting it. That's another bit that we really need to look at as well. But one of the other things that's often overlooked, I think, with business owners is, really working on a system to reduce our expenses. And so, as business owners, we know we need to reduce our expenses. And, we sort of have an ad hoc approach to it. What I get all my clients to do, my retailers to do, is let's have a system that we're constantly working on reducing our expenses. And, this might be revisiting your expense sheet on a monthly basis and talking to suppliers and electricity providers, etc. Because, you might get a 0.5% or a 1% reduction in those charges. But if you're doing that regularly every month, over 12 months, it's a significant saving. And that's just pure cash flow into your account. That's one thing. The other thing that's really important in flushing your bank account with cash, which is often overlooked, and it's one of the easiest things to fix, is to have an understanding, and this is applicable to all businesses, on what your average transaction sale is, so average dollar sale, that kind of thing. And so that's really important, because once you know that, and then you can start to work on strategies to improve it without actually spending money on marketing. And the easiest way to do that is to obviously try and provide extra value to your customer or client based on the journey that they're going through. And it's just that simple, upsell, that McDonald's type of upsell that we can offer our clients. And that's the easiest way to do it in retail, but this can be applicable to all other businesses as well. So, there are 3 or 4 points I've just touched on there, which are really, really important, that will help you get out of a cash flow crunch.
Awesome. That was great and very, very valuable. So
thank you.
Let's see, we talked about profitability. Do you have, so I know you do a lot of systemization. Are there other ways we can systemize things to make things flow more easily?
Absolutely. So I'm all about systems, because eventually it is my desire that, for the business owner to be stepping away from the day-to-day running on their business, so they can start to fulfill all the things they had on their vision list when we first started working together, the traveling or the playing golf 3 times a week. The only way we can get to that stage to ensure that the business runs without you is to start setting up systems. And that's always a fun part, because one, there's that thing of letting go, which is very hard for a business owner, and because nobody can do it better than us, right?
Right.
Than ourselves. So that's always a fun task. And one of the ways that we go about it, just a simple thing, I get my clients, when we first start working together, we just do a time audit. So for 7 days, we just write down everything that they're doing on a piece of paper. And then we go back and revisit it, and we have a look at what do they enjoy doing, what makes them happy, what don't they enjoy doing. And then looking at the things that they don't enjoy doing, let's start getting some help with that. So moving that task to somebody else. And I think the key is to take baby steps. Quite often when business owners do this, they get really excited and they hand off large chunks of tasks towards other people. But I think it's really important, because not only do you need to hand off the task, but you need to articulate what's involved in doing that particular job in the form of a system. And that takes a little bit of time, a little bit of back and forth, because I might write a procedure or a system and give it to somebody else. there might be misinterpretation, and we got to go. And then as a business owner, you're getting frustrated, like, I wanted them to do it like this. So there's a little bit of back and forth. So the key is we need to start slowly, and it's it's almost like an inverse relationship. We'll start off slow, and then as we get better and better at it, we'll find that we can really develop and implement systems a lot quicker as the business goes on.
Awesome. Well, that was really helpful. What is the best, you gave us so much value today.
Okay.
So what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Sure thing. So in terms of connection, the best place to come find me is on LinkedIn. Just look up my name, Alvin Narsey. I'm also on Facebook. You can plug me into Google and I should come up everywhere. We have a YouTube channel, Instagram, of course, everywhere. And if people are still using websites, you can go to alvinnarseycoaching.com. I'm sure Kim, you'll have all the links to my contact details everywhere. But yeah, just send me a message. Let me know that you heard me on your show, Kim. And yeah, we can continue the conversation.
Awesome. So first, I want to thank you, Alvin, for being on here today, because you really did provide so much value, and it's something that I know people need to hear.
Yes.
So that was valuable. And to our listeners, I will have these links in our show notes so that you can go connect, so you can find him on all the social channels or on your website if that's what you do. So thanks again for being on. It was just a great episode.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Kim. Thank you.
Are you ready to break through the barriers that are holding you back and reach a higher level in your business in just 4 hours? Be sure to click the link today and join other high-achieving professionals that have worked with Kimberly Lebbing to accelerate their success.